Hello, beautiful, amazing human beings. I'm Coach Ariel Starbird. I have with me Shiloh Thompson. I'm a holistic health and fitness coach. Shiloh Thompson is a naturopath and functional medicine practitioner. And we've done some podcasts before. They're getting popular. The last one we did, I was very surprised. In just a couple of weeks, has got almost 40 views. I don't advertise at all. So to me, that means people are interested. They're listening. Somebody's paying attention. I don't think it's just the FBI. I think people genuinely are interested. So we're going to continue the conversation and we're going to talk about topics that have to do with things that are most relevant and food, obviously, because what we eat is what we become. And there's so much information and so much disinformation about basic things like carbs and sugars and fats and protein, things that you would have thought we should know by now. But because of so much disinformation and brainwashing around food, we're going to talk about it. And we're going to talk about the fact that RFK Jr. is changing the standard food pyramid. Now, there's been a variety of different food pyramids before, but the one that was accepted by the medical standard of care, the FDA, the government, and the food pyramid that was subsidized all across the country. It's literally the worst thing on the planet. Let me just show you
Correct.
a picture. I want to show a picture of it so people know what we're
Okay.
talking about. This is what I was raised on. Um, Now, I was born in Russia. So in Russia, we didn't even have the food pyramid. We had a completely different system. It was not much health. Traditional cultures did eat healthier, but modern cultures really didn't. It was very carb heavy also. But essentially, it was this. I'll just say, essentially, it was this.
So
Um,
your diet coming from Russia was very similar to what we have here?
yes, but
Oh,
we just didn't have McDonald's.
okay.
So just like here, there were people who knew how to cook traditionally. Their diet
Hmm.
was totally different. It was traditional to a particular ethnic group that they came from or
Hmm.
particular region. So the modern food was like this, just minus the junk
Right.
food. They didn't have the labels of, they didn't even have McDonald's up until I don't remember how old I was when the first McDonald's opened, and it was not as bad as they were here. But in general, it
Okay.
was still very carb heavy, unfortunately. A lot of potatoes, Russians,
Yeah.
um, but a lot of root vegetables. So, but the thing is, when I was growing up, they weren't as crazy about all this modern crap as they are now here. Um,
Right.
at that time, it was still a little more traditional. It was still more things that came from the ground. It was just very carb heavy, unfortunately.
Hmm.
But like I said, minus, like, I feel like it got more plastic. The food got a lot more plastic over the last 30 years to
Oh,
the
for
point
sure.
where people weren't even eating food anymore. They were literally eating paint and,
Right.
yeah, and petroleum. Like, it's just pharmaceuticals that happen to look like food. I think that was already going on when I was a kid in Russia and in Europe, but
Hmm.
it was just the rollout of it. It was not as bad. So let's just break this down a little bit so people understand why is this a problem? Because I, working at a gym, I had lots of people. They're still teaching. They're still believing that this is what's good, and they don't understand what the problem is. So let's just unpack it. So this food pyramid tells us that the foundation of our health is processed carbs and wheat. Okay, you can explain why that's a problem in a moment. And then they're telling us fruits and vegetables. And they're throwing it all together. Have lots of fruits and vegetables. Okay, again, lots of carbs, lots of sugar. Look, most of this is sweet vegetables, by the way, or sweet fruits. They're not actually putting all the amazing vegetables that are out there. They're putting things that are very sweet. And then they're putting processed dairy and processed cheese full of antibiotics and hormones in there. And then they're putting a little bit of meat in there, also full of antibiotics and hormones and corn fed and all that crap. And then at the top, they're giving us candy.
Yes.
Nowhere on here is water, herbs, or healthy
Hmm.
fats at all, right?
Right. And at the top, they do have fats, oils, and confectionery, right? But what kind of fat? What are they talking about? They're talking about bad fats, right? They're talking about bad oils, seed oils, things like that. They're not differentiating like what's a healthy fat and what's not a healthy
Yeah,
fat.
what
And
they mean by fat is Crisco.
right, right,
So,
right. And when I look down here, like I'm not against a potato and I'm not against some carrots or broccoli or anything like that. I'm just not against it. However, when we have the production and the farming methods that we have today and all the chemicals and all the GMOs and all of that, now it becomes toxic. So now we're disrupting the gut, we're increasing our insulin response, we're having issues there, and we're not getting the protein to balance anything. Or what about the care for our gut lining? So what's the new thing today is leaky gut, right? I honestly believe in the depth of my heart that leaky gut is caused to the farming methods that we have with GMO wheat, corn, and other grains. I honestly believe that. I just they have BT corn out there that we're not supposed to be eating that is 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 basically formulated so that when a earworm or a cornworm, whatever they call it, European earworm, I think it's called, when they go to eat that, it explodes their intestines. What's that doing to us as humans? They say it doesn't have any impact, but I don't believe them because now we have 10-year-olds with IBS and irritable bowel. And what's the food pyramid for these children, right? It's all about, I can tell you what our school gets. They get a little, it's called a fruitable. It's like a fruit pastry when they come in the morning. Sometimes it's cereal. Sometimes it's Lucky Charm flavored muffins. Right. So this is what they're
Oh
getting.
my God, horrible.
So like they're waking up, we have all these behavior problems, we're spending all this money at school, and this is what we're giving our kids. So they're
Oh,
getting a sugar rush right away in the morning with a chemical compound that's just ADHD in the making. And it's not fair. It's not fair. And I'm not sure what you see at the gym, but I'm sure you're seeing a lot of the same issues with people that are saying, "Oh, I just want to get ripped, or I want to tone up, or I want to, and then they're saying, "Well, I'm eating healthy. I'm eating lots of vegetables. I'm eating lots of fruits," and they're still not able to achieve their goals.
that's like a step higher. A lot of people that I see, they're not even eating food, those fruits and vegetables. Where the people that like desperately need help, why they pay for coaching is because they can't get off junk food.
Oh, yes.
They're
Yeah.
so addicted and it's so convenient and they're so busy working. They don't know what to do. They were never taught how to cook. They don't know how to meal prep. They don't other than they read somewhere that chicken and rice and broccoli is good. That's like their go-to. That's it. They really
Right.
don't know anything else.
Right. And then where's the chicken coming from and what kind of broccoli? And yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But this like the whole process of how we're eating today, a lot of people complain Michelle Obama. She kind of invaded the schools with the new nutritional guidelines. And I swear they're counting calories, but they're not counting chemicals. And even the apples are coming prepackaged. Sliced apples with caramel in a prepackaged little bag. And I can I just can't imagine how have you ever cut an apple? And what happens at the moment you cut it? It sits on the counter and it turns brown, right? Yeah. How are these apples able to stay so fresh and nice looking? I mean, so there's another chemical, right? So we think we're giving them something healthy, but we're not.
To be honest with you, I think at this point we might not even be getting food. We might be getting something 3D printed
Mhm.
or lab grown because they
Right.
don't have to, they don't, I believe that right now there's a fight about what they have to disclose, but I think there's no law that says they have to state that it was lab grown.
Yeah. Did you hear what happened with Campbell's? The
Yeah.
vice president was caught on a hot mic. And like I don't think people really understand.
Well, say what,
These
tell people what he was caught saying.
so he was caught like with a lot of profanity, but the meat of what he was saying is, I wouldn't feed this shit to my family.
Because
This
it's lab
food is
grown.
for poor people because it's lab
It's
grown
all
on
lab grown.
cancer. It's
Yeah,
all grown on cancer cells.
that's it.
That's how they produce it. And so he got caught. Like this was a big deal, and he got caught. Um and like I don't think people were like, oh yeah, lab grown meat. If they realized what lab grown meat really was, it's nothing but a cancerous tumor that you're putting into your body. Like, oh, this should be illegal. And they're not, you are correct. If you look at a Campbell's can, it says bioengineered foods may be present, or, this contains bioengineered foods, but it doesn't say what that means.
Or yeah, with the percentage, right? And people are
Right.
assuming, okay, it's probably mostly natural and a little bit of genetically modified. No, it's like 100% GMO, petroleum based cancerous
Crap.
tumor.
I know. It's
Unbelievable.
so bad. It is. It is.
So
And
and another thing I'll just mention is that intermittent fasting has gotten very
mhm,
popular, right? So my clients try to do it on their own. I tell them, don't do it on your own, please. I'm going to coach you through it. There are many reasons for it because what they do is they will skip a bunch of meals, and what do they break their fast with? The Campbell's soup type of crap.
right. Or
So
sugar, right?
yeah, or
I
or
can't
pizza,
handle it anymore.
or a
Hmm.
giant pizza that's full of hormones, chemicals. So then they're actually injuring themselves. The body's
Hmm.
trying to detox, and it's just beginning to recover, and bam, they smash it with a hammer by consuming
Right.
something like that, and they get up injured. It doesn't work. They end up not being able to
Mhm.
lose weight. They feel horrible, and they're like, "Oh, intermittent fasting doesn't work." No, it's the way you're doing it doesn't work.
Right. Right. Yeah. Our farming methods, like back in the 1940s, 1950s, we developed the agricultural part of our big ag program here in the United States, the USDA, right? And so when we started doing that, all of a sudden these farmers started using Monsanto, which that's another story, right? Where Monsanto comes from and Bayer comes from. Like you can look all the way back at what they call the Holocaust for that, right? But we started to actually subsidize these farms. So governments were giving our farmers money to produce these crops, and the farmers otherwise couldn't survive. There's no way for them to survive, so they had to be given this farmer welfare in order to produce this amount of food. And it's all a trap. It's a corporate trap. It's a lot like the chicken farms that they have out there. My brother-in-law actually worked for it used to be Pilgrim's Pride. Before that it was Purdue. But I warned him when he was going into it. I said, hey, you're going to put up this big chicken barn, and you're going to put on all this money and all this equipment. You're going to sign all these contracts, and it's going to leave you broke. And he did not believe me. And you know what? He believes me now. And
A little too
like
late.
it's almost destroyed him. If he wasn't such a capable person, like he's very meticulous, and he's very capable with keeping up equipment and things like that, where other people wouldn't be able to do that. So they would constantly have to be upgrading to new. He was able to maintain all of his equipment and keep it pristine. So that's where they didn't take him. But where they did take him, I remember him saying that at one point he had to vaccinate for the new salmonella vaccine that came out. And he gave it to his whole chickens. Now, his chickens were the ones that were coming in, and they were laying the eggs. These eggs were not for eating, they were for reproducing more chickens, right? So, what they would do is they would feed all the chickens and the roosters, they'd harvest the eggs, and then those eggs would be shipped out for incubation. Well, he remembers when he got his whole lot of chickens and they vaccinated, and the whole lot died.
Oh,
And that was the first time he came to me and he said, I think you're right about this. I think
wow.
you're right. But don't you dare tell anyone.
Mm.
And so anyway, so he's no longer a farmer for them. He's retired, he's done. But he really went into this thinking that this was the way. This is the way. This is going to support his family. Like he's thinking generationally, right? This is an old fashioned person. They're thinking generational. And same as these other farmers out there, right? They're out there and they're they're going and they're grinding it every day to produce food. And I hear them say, my one nephew, he's a farmer, corn farmer, and I hear him saying all the time, well, I say, well, GMOs are bad. And he says, well, you got to feed the world. That's not actually the case. This is just the brainwashing that happens with these guys, right? But I know if he wasn't getting government subsidies, there's no way he could make it. But then you look at someone like what's his name? Joel Salatin, phenomenal, right? Regenerative farmer. It doesn't matter what that guy touches. He can formulate a method that you can not only financially gain from and like succeed and do very well, but you can also like feed healthy food to the community and involve the community. And so he believes in farmer to community. So cut out the middleman.
Absolutely. So there's two things I want to talk about. I just want to mention that what people who've grown gardens, who start growing gardens, tell me is that they're shocked how everything just grows. Once you have good land and you plant the seeds, it grows so much you can't eat it fast enough. You have to trade it
Correct.
or sell it or can it or something. So and natural, organic. It's just not true that we have to have GMOs to feed everybody. It's that people
Correct.
don't have their own gardens and their own farms anymore, and there's artificial, restricted, artificial poverty created. Actually, let's just call it what it is:
Right.
suppression, financial abuse, and it's all by design, and it's completely unnecessary. And if everybody had their own little garden like it used to be, there would be more than enough food, truly more than enough. People wouldn't even know what to do with it. So that's one
Right.
idea I wanted to say. And the second is, yeah, I know his work. He's really good. He's really smart. He talks about a lot of other subjects too, like how to have a family farm, how to train your kids or raise your kids on the farm to do farm work so you can
Hmm.
pass that on to them. I think that's brilliant. Most people don't have anything to pass on to their kids nowadays. So
Correct.
can you just explain a little bit to people who have never heard the term or they don't really understand what it means, regenerative farming? How's that different from what we have, standard farming?
Right. So standard farming is we go in and we clear land, right? And then let's say it's for crops. Maybe it's for crops. Well, yeah, for crops. And so we clear the land and then we plant seed of one kind. Okay. So when we clear the land, we're automatically disrupting all of those microbes and bacteria in the soil. And then we plant the seed. Well, in order to make the seed really grow, now we add a bunch of fertilizer and nitrogen, right? And now the land becomes dependent upon um, basically liquid nitrogen instead of grabbing the nutrients from the earth and the whole like biosphere that's underneath the ground, right? So there's a whole community living under the ground, feeding the roots of everything from grass to cattails. It doesn't matter. I mean, that's what's actually feeding these guys, right? There's a whole community happening, an interchange. Well, when we plow land and we plant a seed, we disrupt that. We just totally disrupt that, right? Now we have what's called monoculture because we planted corn. So instead of having corn and grass and squash and barley and whatever natural grasses and weeds that would grow in there, we have corn. And then in order to feed that corn, we have to dump a bunch of fertilizer onto that corn. Now, in order to keep the pests at bay, now we have to dump a bunch of pesticides, right? And herbicides to keep the other competing weeds from growing back because Mother Nature wants to keep its ground covered. When we do a monoculture, we strip the ground, we plant, and now we have rows. So in between all those rows is bare land. Well, Mother Nature knows to cover the earth because otherwise you'll have erosion, right? You have other things. So anyway, when we do all of this, we disrupt that whole um, I just want to call biology of the soil, right? We just disrupt it all. And now we're poisoning the food that we're actually going to take back our to our farms to feed our animals or to feed our people. And then it becomes a cycle, right? And like John Deere and these big guys, they're at the top of that cycle because they're the ones that are benefiting the most. Because in order to do enough crops, you have to have the biggest combine and the biggest planter and the biggest. And so they're able to continuously take government money in order to provide this stuff to the farmer. I don't know the exact how that actually happens, but there's tons of YouTube videos on it. Now, so that's one way. So now if you were to take something that was called regenerative, what we would do is we would use that same land and maybe we would put cattle on it. Okay, so we're going to put cattle, which a cow feeds a lot of people. Okay, so we're going to put cow on the earth. So the cattle are grazing the earth. And now, 3 days later, after we move those cows to a new pasture, because we want the cows to disrupt the soil and to leave fertilizer, but not to destroy it, right? So we want them to graze, but not overgraze. So now we're going to move them. Now we're going to bring in some chickens. 3 days later, they're going to follow the cows. When they come in, all of those little flies laid eggs, and those eggs are starting to become maggots and different little worms, right? So now the chickens are coming in and they're eating all of these little maggots and worms, and chickens scratch. So they're scratching at this manure, these cow patties, and they're spreading them in and spreading them out. And so now that's becoming real fertilizer, not overpowering, but real fertilizer for the land. The chickens at the same time are getting fed. So you don't have to raise a bunch of corn for the chickens. The cows are eating the grass, the chickens are eating the bugs, you see? And that's kind of regenerative. Now, all of that product can be sold to your community and it's very healthy. Then we have market farming. And then market farming is, planting rows of vegetables and planting rows of herbs and different things that are not disruptive to the land. Have you heard of like no-till farming?
No.
Okay, so like there's farming methods that people are either taking compost and spreading a row of compost and planting directly into that compost, or they're using different methods to where they are basically moving grass and sod and soil and planting, moving and planting, moving and planting. So all the ground around the crops stays covered, right? So you're not having to till up all of that microbiology happening under the soil. You're actually using it to your benefit. With us, we're using a type of a garden that uses mulch. We're using natural wood chips in our area. So when we chop a tree down, like when we cleared for our house, we chipped all of that wood, all of the branches, all the leaves, all into one pile. And then we went ahead and tilled our first couple of years, right? And we amended our soil to get it where we felt like it was at its healthiest. And then we covered that with mulch about this deep. Now we planted our plants into the soil, but through the mulch. And now what happens is we have natural weed control. I think I spent maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours pulling weeds in my garden the whole season. I didn't have to pull weeds. So using things like that. And plus now through the winter and the fall, that land is still covered. That soil is covered. So we're not exposing that to the elements. So all of that natural biology can happen underneath the soil. Like there's so many things like, and we're just learning. I was a tilled farmer. Like we tilled our garden and we planted it. And if you till your garden, great. Like grab your grass clippings, throw it over, between your rows and you're going to do just fine. But victory gardens that happened back in the like World War II, that is what we need to go back to. Everybody needs their own little personal victory garden. And honestly, I think that they're trying to make it to where people can't even grow a garden anymore. They're trying to make it illegal.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
there's so many things. There's just so many layers.
Absolutely. And people used to have this knowledge. And I don't know what the laws are now because I don't have, I'm not a farmer, but I've seen different articles around the fact that collecting rainwater was illegal in some states, collecting
Correct.
seeds, your own seeds, insanity.
That is that Monsanto thing.
Yeah.
It's not just Monsanto, but the big guys like Monsanto. Yeah,
And all of that is basically to prevent independent farming. So you are completely dependent on a very toxic system. And we talked, in previous shows about, the synthetic chemicals that are constantly used on the animals and in the crops, and that's bad. It's also
right.
in the land, and that's bad. But why the regenerative is good is because obviously we're not using the chemicals, but more than that, in the way that you just began to describe the use of the rotation and the use of the different natural dynamics between the different species
Hmm.
and the land and the plants. As a result of that, the earth has a lot more vitamins and minerals. That's what we want. We want earth to have lots
Correct.
of natural vitamins and minerals, and that's what's going to go into our vegetables. Because I think a lot of people who live in big cities, they are so separated from the production of the food. They literally cannot probably by now tell the difference if they have an organic chicken versus a chicken that was full of antibiotics and hormones versus a 3D printed chicken. They can't
Correct.
see the difference. They can't, maybe they can taste the difference, but most people haven't had anything organic in a long time, maybe in their entire life. Some of these younger generations, that are raised by devices, raised like this all day long, looking at, by YouTube, and on formula, not breast milk. They
Hmm.
probably have never tasted anything organic and non-GMO and something that came from the earth ever.
Right. Yep. They're chemically switched.
Yeah.
And that's what that is. And even like our family, like there's times we have sports and then we're going out or we're eating the concessions and we're trying to keep up because we're on the go. We live in a rural community, so it's hours in between going to a game and getting home. And all of a sudden you just start feeling really lousy. It's like, oh, I want to support my school, but can you have some soup once in a while or can you have something healthy? Rather than it's always pizza, pizza, hot dogs, and popcorn. That's kind of the standard. And
And I never understood that. This is the craziest part to me, right? So up until COVID, here in New York City, there was a organic restaurant, multiple ones in Manhattan and in the different boroughs, organic, non-GMO. There were at least a few in some places that made like organic juice. I really like that, like organic veggie juice. So there were options, or just healthier options in the middle of a concrete jungle, but you go out where there's farms everywhere and people are eating junk food. I never
mhm,
understood that. Where,
right.
why the disconnect?
Yep. All you have is gas stations. You have gas stations in between, little gas stations. And inside the gas station, they just have those like, I don't, those little roll ups or hot dogs or brats or something, like that's what you get. That's what you have here. And so, we do a lot of packing. We pack little olives and we pack cheese and we pack stuff like that to go. But uh, I don't know. Like I don't know. Even the popcorn, it's all we work the concession stands for school, because we have kids and you have to devote so much time to work in the concession stand. And even the popcorn oil is not like I wish they just use coconut oil or they would just use maybe even like they I don't know, avocado oil, anything. But what they're using is this synthetic oil that tastes like butter, right?
And it's because
And
all that stuff is FDA approved and they have to follow the rules. They
correct.
don't want to get sued.
That's our school. I'm just, and I've been so excited about RFK to bring him back up because he is a real world person. He's not just some heavyweight obese doctor or professional that's trying to appease the food giants. He really has a sense of health. He understands health. He's been fighting corporate America his whole life, right? And he's bringing back the common sense. Common sense. Let's feed healthy proteins. Half an hour after you wake up, let's have a healthy protein. After you have a healthy protein, then I don't have a walk. Have a walk. I wouldn't mind at the school if they would give the kids in the morning something like maybe some eggs. I always tell so I'm friends with the superintendent of the school, and I always tell him I want to have a cook-off because I can promise you dollar for dollar, I can provide these kids home cooked meals cheaper than you can feed them the prepackaged garbage that you're delivering every day,
That's
right?
another thing is that healthy food now is actually way more cost effective than all this crap.
Correct. Yeah. So I could have breakfast buffets. We could have sausage. We could have bacon. We could have eggs. We could have a variety of different things instead of a pancake. Last week, they gave the kids pancakes. Now, the pancakes aren't made, they're on their big, beautiful Wolf stove that they have. They're pre-packaged in a little plastic wrappy, right? And it comes with two little pancakes this big and a little thing of syrup. Do you know the elementary kids didn't get sausage? They didn't get sausage.
They
They
got
only
carbs,
got those pancakes.
yeah,
That's all
carbs and
they
sugar,
got.
yeah, wheat and
Yep.
sugar. And so wheat and sugar, yeah, that is the demise of our health still. And we just have a little bit more time, so we're not going to go into a big lecture as to why, although there's lots of great books about why, and
Hmm.
they can reach out to you or me, and I would be more than happy to explain to them exactly why. But suffice it to say that that is why Americans are so overweight, have diabetes, heart disease, brain issues, degenerative disease so early in life. It's because of that kind of diet, because they're eating carbs for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I saw a
Correct.
post, I didn't pull it up, but I saw a post recently like, vegan doesn't have to be complicated. It can be easy. Look. And it showed like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it was all carbs.
Right.
Breakfast, it was,
Right.
yeah, it's technically vegan, but this is in no way good. Like dinner was just pasta with tomato sauce. So the tomato
Right.
sauce is fructose corn syrup. It's not, there's no tomatoes in there.
Right.
We were not,
Right. And like Oreos is vegan, right? Oreos are vegan, right?
so,
Yeah.
so is beer and French fries.
Right.
Yeah. So
Right.
vegan is not the answer. And that what that post was really portraying was dirty. It's called dirty vegan.
Hmm.
It's not healthy at all. Please don't eat like that. Please don't eat carbs for breakfast
Right.
because you want to avoid the bad meat. Meat is not bad. We can explain why. Um, but there is a healthier version of vegan. So let's say somebody, for one reason or another, medically couldn't do meat. Okay, but there's a much healthier version of vegan,
Correct.
and that is truly organic and non-GMO vegetables, not fruits
Hmm.
and vegetables, but lots of vegetables and a little bit of seeds, maybe a little bit of fruit here and there, because you really got to reduce the sugar because of all the
Right.
calories that people have. By the time people get to the idea that they got to like eat healthy, they're so full of disease and like degeneration and candida and bacteria and viruses. You can't just switch and be okay. You have to detox. So
Correct.
that period of detox, you can be eating lots of green vegetables and juicing and doing some intermittent fasting very carefully. Please don't do this by yourself. Get coaching on it, because it's not just skipping meals. I don't want
Right.
people to think, oh, I'm just going to skip a meal and
Right.
that's intermittent fasting. No, there are protocols and you have to do it right. You have to go into it correctly and exit it correctly. You have to make sure you're
Hmm.
getting the right nutrition, the right supplementation, that your detoxing protocols are right, that it's okay for where you are. You know, there might be reasons why you may not want to do intermittent fasting in that way, or you might
Right.
be able to handle more and not even realize it. But it's not a one size fit all, like all diet is. And
Especially if you're a woman.
exactly. Yes, correct. Or if you're high stress, or if you're an athlete, right? If you have a
Hmm.
high stress job, or if you're an athlete, which is also high stress. Now, I want to share really quick. This is something I share with my clients. There's many other food pyramids that already existed before.
Oh, yeah.
They were just not FDA approved. They were something else. They were, I want to show a keto type of thing. I'm not advising everyone do keto. This is just what, as a type O blood type, this works for me pretty well. So, and I advise some people to eat like this sometimes. I just want to share it. and compare it to what we were talking about before. So with this one, it's saying animal protein, so beef and liver and kidney and things that are, what do you call them? Organ meats, organ meats,
Right. Yes. Organ meats.
eggs and fish and different types of fish. So that is at the base of the pyramid. The other base of the pyramid is healthy fats. Why? Because it's
Right.
for the brain. Healthy fats are very, very important. But they are very calorie rich. So I don't want people to misunderstand like they're going to be sitting there gulping down oil. No, no, no. You need a little bit of it, and it's very calorie rich already. So you might be having this much salad and this much oil, but all the calories actually came from the oil. So
Hmm.
you would still be eating keto. Some people think keto is like Atkins. It's not the same, by the way, at all.
Correct.
You just do a little bit of research, you'll see they're very different. And there's keto and there's ketogenic. And I'm not saying classic keto because that's like very high fat and almost nothing else. And it had a very specific purpose. So we're not talking about that. This is more of a general ketogenic, leaning keto type of diet that has animal proteins that are full of fat, by the way, too, and healthy fats at the bottom. Then there's herbs right there. I love it. They got herbs right there and in the foundation. So
Hmm.
they're not just spices. It's not just for flavor. It's because they're medicinal. Because Hippocrates said, let food be your medicine, medicine be your food. Then there's a lot of green vegetables. It's very, very important. Leafy greens, different types of green vegetables. There's a reason why they're the foundation because chlorophyll. Chlorophyll helps to clean our blood. That's part of the detoxing. And there's some healthy fats there too. There's avocado. And
Hmm.
they do have some protein and some fat as well, but you would be getting your carbs in a ketogenic type of diet. You'd be getting your carbs from the vegetables. You don't have to get it from refined wheat at all. In fact, we don't, if you never eat refined wheat ever again, you'll be better off. You don't
Better off.
yeah. If you could only choose like one thing to live on, if let's say on an inhabited island, would it be animal protein or wheat? It would be animal protein every single time. You can survive on this. You cannot survive and be healthy on a bunch of wheat. It's not possible, actually. So then after these, there's different types of vegetables. I don't even see much fruit in here. It's a lot of
Hmm.
vegetables, and some of them, it's not that they don't have any sugar at all. It's that they're not high on sugar and they're different colors because colors have different vitamins and minerals. And then there's some dairy. I unfortunately can't have too much dairy, so I don't really consume this. I cut it out. It doesn't really affect me. I don't really care. But some people do well with different types of, especially fermented dairy. Great. And then here are the nuts and the seeds. For me, this works pretty well. I know a lot of other people that this works for them too. That maybe if they're very athletic, they lean heavily on the meats. Maybe the meats are like half of the half of
Right.
the pyramid. So it's individual, right? It's
Hmm.
individual. So what do you think about this?
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love the way it's laid out here. It's got everything that you need, and that's really the way that we are designed to be eating. You can take someone that has seizures and put them on a carnivore diet or a ketogenic diet, and you're going to see the seizures go away or at least be reduced, but typically they're cured. Same with diabetes. This is a cure for diabetes. People say, well, you can't cure diabetes. Well, this is the way that you get rid of diabetes.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're not supposed to say that C-U-R-E word, but if you make it go away, well, then that's effectively
Correct.
you got rid of it.
Well, you
Absolutely.
make it comes from diet. It can go away from diet, right?
And I've had lots of clients who started off with diabetes, and when they finished my program, they didn't have it anymore. Like that part is easy for me. Losing
Hmm.
fat, getting rid of diabetes, getting off metformin, getting off of drugs. For me, all that stuff is easy. The part that I find hard is, well, nowadays everyone is so stressed with money, it's the just affording the protocols. But before that, before money, it's the mindset, the
Hmm.
fear of not being independent on a system. As soon as they have any kind of crisis, like little children, they immediately run back to the system. Drugs, pills. We saw this
Yes,
in COVID. People that seem to be enlightened, they seem to be knowledgeable, people with degrees. As soon as they're scared, what were they buying? Beans and pasta
right.
and running to get the vaccine. And it's like it just shows that somewhere deep down, their defaults are very unhealthy. All the stuff they think they learned is layers on top, but at the very foundation of who they are, they really don't understand this. They don't get it yet. They're not independent. They don't think independently. They're latching on to the system. And the
Right.
system gave them poison. And a lot of those people were very seriously injured or they died. And
Hmm.
only the people that truly integrated lessons, they were doing this. They were not scared.
Right.
They were they,
Right.
they were just continuing with this.
Right. Well, I would say for people that are watching, I would say look up regenerative farming, look up big ag, look up why wheat can be dangerous and what happened with fats, why fats are healthy, right? Fat for Fuel, great book. That was one of my first books I ever landed upon because before I was the one that was like, it's all about vegetables, it's all about healthy vegetables. And then I learned without a good gut lining, you can't handle healthy vegetables, right?
Especially women, we have a much higher necessity of very healthy fats, especially when we get very stressed
Hmm.
and or when we're pregnant or getting ready to be pregnant. Um, and during other cycles of our life, especially after 40. Um, and there is some amount of fat that's healthy for women.
Hmm.
So I don't think that people should, the goal of zero fat, like I've had clients who are extremely obese come in, my goal is zero fat. I'm like, no, you don't, that's not a good goal
Right.
either. Why the extremes from 300 to zero? For one, that's not realistic. But two, don't have that goal. How about like being 160 pounds? And,
Right.
and let's say you're a healthy BMI.
Yeah, what about 20% body fat for a more, maybe a menopausal woman? Why not? Why not
Yeah,
20% body fat?
that's
That can be healthy.
That's okay. That's okay. But they don't know. So the biggest challenge that I was having with people is the consistency. For as long as they were in the coaching program, they were doing okay. As soon as they like, I got this, I'm good, I got this under control, I got protocols, I got programs, I'm doing this and this and this. They go off on their own. A year later, they're falling apart because family reunions happen, birthday parties happen, baby showers. They ate a bunch of cake. They ate a bunch of pizza, pasta, chips, and they fell off the wagon so bad that they're like, oh man, I don't know, I don't even know how to come back anymore because
Right.
they didn't do it by themselves. They had my help to get there. Once they lost it, they don't. So it's the family. It's family. When they were on their healing journey by themselves, and as soon as they reintegrated into family and society, it was inevitable. Everyone else is eating shit, so they started to eat shit, and so it is kind of a lonely journey. But what I realized is you have to take people with you.
Right.
If you can, take people with you. If not, you have to lead. So you
Hmm.
figured out how to do it, now lead. Show other people how to do it. If they can follow, they will follow. If they can't, you're doing it to yourself.
Right. Right. But I think maybe I would like to tell people that if you've never heard of RFK Jr., Bobby Kennedy Jr., look out for him, see what he's doing, follow him because he's making waves and there's a lot of people against him for trying to do things that are healthier, right? So he's trying to shift it from government subsidies to regenerative healthy food. Why would anyone be against that, right? So I would like to tell people, follow him, see what he's doing, come with questions. Can people go to your podcast? Can they submit comments or questions? Is that something
Yeah,
that they can do?
I allow pretty much all. There's like very minor, like I won't allow bullying and like calling for
But
violence.
but
And
they can contact you, right, for questions?
absolutely.
Oh, perfect. Ask questions. Give us something to talk about because I don't know anything about podcasts. I'm so clueless. I'm so like
Well,
I'm really in the woods. Like people don't understand I'm really in the woods. And this is this is my way to get out there and reach people. And I want to know, what are you interested in? What are you learning? Why, what are you seeing on your end of the world, right? So I
well,
think that's what's important.
absolutely, yeah. They can post questions under the video. They can email questions. I am on so many social medias. Although, really, the best thing is to just contact the 15-minute, contact me through my website.
Hmm.
But if they like, I just get to on social medias, I get so many messages, I can't possibly sift through them. But if they
Oh,
leave a comment under the video, I'll usually see that. Going back to the pyramid, right? Why? So he's changing. What are three top things he is implementing now regarding the food pyramid?
The exact food pyramid that you brought up
That's the one?
is what is, yes, that is what he's advocating for.
Interesting. Okay, okay. So he's into keto. That's good.
Yes, he is, but in a healthy way, and that what you showed was a healthy keto. There's a lot of people on dirty keto, so I want to be really careful. But
Yes, and dirty keto is when they're buying like fad bombs that are full of sugar. I've seen those. I remember like going. I was at Costco and it had like protein bars full of like 17 grams of
yes,
protein, and you look and it's lots of sugar.
right. Or they can have all the crap sugary drinks that they want as long as it's aspartame or sucralose instead of natural sugar.
Ugh,
Right.
and
So I can't see how anybody's going to live through that for very long without losing your gallbladder or causing all kinds of problems for your liver. But keto's really healthy. And I never knew that growing up. I didn't, we always had meat. We were farmers. So we always had meat and always knew meat was good. But I didn't realize how important it is. And if we could get more healthy meats and take away some of these grains and chemicals out of our kids, the whole next generation would be so healthy.
absolutely. I want to tell a story. I can't believe I almost forgot. I really wanted to tell the story, why this matters. And to our listeners, please stick around. You want to hear the story. People almost can't believe it when I tell them this. Some family friends and the husband and wife, they're book collectors. They collect like antique books, and they including culinary books. So they've known, and these are old Russians, so they know a little bit of what traditional cooking is. They know a little bit about how to eat healthy, but they don't do it. And I used to hang out with my family, used to hang out with maybe 20 years ago. I was in college. Their daughter was in high school. And the what I did not realize at the time is these are the types of people that would eat cake every day, that would eat the conventional diet every day. And they were she the high school daughter was already then having some health problems, lower back pain, things like that. They just thought, oh, she's just tired. How she could be tired because she never did anything athletic, who knows? But they just decided she's just so anyway. 20 years later, just recently, my mother told me how she got both of her legs amputated because of diabetes. She started to get paralysis of both of her legs, and both were amputated. She's in a wheelchair. She's only in her 40s. She's so young. All would have been preventable with nutrition and diet. No surgeries needed, no medications needed, simply a change of lifestyle. Just don't eat cake every day. Just implement the ketogenic diet. And
Mhm.
all those problems they were having all would go away. Um, but they didn't do it. Why? And it's like they know what I do. Why didn't they ever ask for help? And what I realized is some people have so much shame around their addictions and around their weaknesses and around their ignorance. They feel like they should know. They don't know why they don't know. They don't know why they're so addicted. It's like imagine you're asleep and then you wake up and you're like in hell. And they're so ashamed that they did this to themselves
Mhm.
to ask for help. And shame is just so toxic. It's such a toxic emotion. So if our listeners are experiencing that, like, wow, I didn't know any of this, and they're ashamed about how fat they are, and their lifestyle or whatever it is, just no judgment. Just realize there's no judgment. I've just always been into fitness, but I pushed myself and I just got myself into sports and I put myself into gyms and I like traveled from state to state, going from one martial arts gym to another. I did it for myself. No one told me to do it. I just did it. It's just my journey. But other people aren't like that. They're seeking comfort. I'm not seeking comfort, and maybe that's it. Um, I was okay to never to not be. I was okay to be uncomfortable. But other people want that comfort. They want the comfort food. They want to sit. They don't want to sweat too much, and it's like you got to be able and willing to change in order.
Right, but you're able to help them.
Exactly. Well, we are. So just to mention, we work together.
Mhm.
So I do the coaching, but you do the naturopathic part of it, and it's indispensable. I can't do that by myself. I don't know that. You're a certified functional medicine practitioner. As much as I would love to do that, that's a whole other job. That's a whole other profession.
Right.
As much as I do already, as many hats as I wear, I can't also wear your hat. There's no way. So I hope you keep doing what you're doing because I need that, and my clients need that, and your clients need that, and lots of other people who haven't yet worked with us, who will work with us, need that. So sometimes people don't even know until they retire. Like, okay, now I can finally do something good for myself. Well, they discover like they want to live longer. They want a little more longevity. They want to extend their life. They want to be sick all the time, like they were. A lot of people trade. They make a lot of money, but they get really really sick.
Hmm.
And then at the end and towards after they retire, they have the money, but they don't have the health. Okay, so get some coaching. Uh,
Right.
Learn about how to do it right so you can be there for your kids and grandkids and hopefully great grandkids.
Exactly. Exactly. It's never too late.
I believe that as well. Even with the story that I just said, she can still recover. She may or may not be able to get her legs. I don't know if she would get prosthetic. I mean, now there's robotics, but she can still, even with the body that she has, she can still do a lot because of the original design. Our organs can generate health. That's what a lot of people don't realize, that organs themselves generate health when they work together. That's why I don't recommend cutting anything out ever. I don't I'm not giving medical advice. This is for myself. But I don't recommend. People think that they need to cut out gallbladder. No, you don't. You got to detox it. People think they got to cut out the appendix. Well, now we're finding out that has a place. Appendix
Very
stores
important.
healthy bacteria.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't recommend cutting out ovaries or any sexual. I don't recommend cutting anything out. If something is quote unquote diseased, you got to detox it and you got to heal it. That organ it can be regenerated. It can be
Correct.
regenerated, and then that organ will serve as a source of your healing. Kind of like a clock has all the different parts moving together. So, and if you take out a part, things don't work right. The body is like that. You need all the
Mhm.
organs working together to produce optimal wellness. So this is why cut, poison, burn, which is the conventional standard of care, it does not work to produce optimal wellness. It's just a downward spiral of disease until you reach death. So people who enter, a lot of times you've noticed, right? I know this with my clients,
Right.
when they've had family members who enter the medical system, especially if they're elderly, and it's just a downward spiral. They do not
Yes.
come out on the other side better. They think they will. A lot of times they don't even come out at all.
Right.
But doing
Yeah,
what
it's sad.
it is very sad, but doing what we just talked about, just implement this diet, even if you're on your own. Just
Yeah.
start with that. Look at that picture and look at the other picture and move from one to the other. And if you need help, reach out. I'm more than happy to coach you through it. And I have lots of other resources for how to do it safely.
Good idea. Good idea. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Shallow. This was awesome. We will continue. How can people find you?
Oh, you can find me online. You can find me at elevated-wellness.com.
And you take on new clients?
And I do take on a few, not a lot, but I take on a few.
Awesome. Well, I take on a lot.
Mhm.
I take on new clients all the time for coaching, but as I mentioned, all of my naturopathic reports are done by Shiloh.
All right. Take care.
Thank you so much. I will talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.